Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the May 9th, 2023 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee of the City of Charleston to order. Thank everybody for coming and ask Councilmember Gregg to lead us in an invocation or a moment of silence, please.
Lord, thank you for this day. I pray that you would just help us make wise decisions for those that live in this wonderful city that we get to call home. Lord, today we're particularly thankful for our city staff and all the sacrifices they make on behalf of the citizens of the city of Charleston, as well as their families who deal with them being away from long hours and all the sacrifices they make as well. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. First item on our agenda is approval of minutes from April 25th. Any discussion, additions, deletions, all in favor? Any opposed? Bids and purchases, we have 4 of them. There's a motion for all 4.
So moved.
And a second. Any discussion on any of the items that are on there? I just would note that at TNT, we did vote to approve 3B. If that's of any influence on any council member. Is there any, unless there's any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed on bids and purchases? The ayes have it. Next, number 4, Police Department approved to submit the 2023 Port Security Grant Application in the amount of $796,230. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 5, Parks and Capital Projects, approval of the other work in progress agreement with Dominion Energy. This one's the amount of $410,052.50 for undergrounding existing overhead lines on Nassau Street. We got a motion and a second. I see a hand, Councilmember Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just had a quick question on this one. I do remember, I think approving the easement for this in real estate. Do we have an idea as to how many homes or residences this will serve? I think it also takes care of the Archer School as well, but just curious as to, as I remember this coming through real estate on the easement.
That is an excellent question, and I see the mayor had his hand up. Is there anybody, Mr. Fullick? By the way, while we got Mr. Fullick coming up, who seconded this motion? Just for Jennifer.
Councilman Mitchell, I believe.
Okay.
No,
Councilman.
he made the motion.
All right, did we have a second? All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Fullick.
So this is actually going to service the Archer School, which is being redeveloped for affordable housing. This
Okay.
is not actually impacting any private homes at all.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Parker.
Do we have a budget? What's the total? Number that we have for undergrounding,
So this, as far as this project is concerned, or just generally speaking.
generally speaking?
So it's part of the franchise fee agreement. It's part of the non-standard service fund. It's part of the franchise agreement with Dominion. There is a process that we recently changed for how projects get into the queue. I will tell you that the amount we currently have is in the millions. It's really just about, and the change in the ordinances are going to allow us to move projects forward more quickly. Part of the issue has been that the ordinance has kind of gotten us to a design phase, but never to a construction phase, which has been difficult to get to the construction phase. So money has built up in that fund. This is the first project under this new language in the ordinance that's going to allow us to move things forward more quickly. And we have a dedicated capital projects manager specifically for these non-standard service fund projects.
It may be helpful at some point in the
Yeah.
not too distant future to get a report out now that we've got a capital projects manager for these, just to let us know where we stand on both the fund, which I think has got in excess of $7 million in it,
Correct.
and where we are in terms of who's in the queue and what
Yeah.
we can expect.
Could we
I
please?
think there's a lot of people want to know about that. So Matt, can we, or Jason, I know he's here. We can get him in here, probably. Good idea.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I guess maybe at Public Works, we can ask this question, but it just reading through the scope of what's being done here, it seems like this would be capable of serving more than just one location. And so, I just would like to understand that as we invest money in undergrounding, that as the infrastructure gets built out, it's capable of serving more than one single place. And I assume the engineers working on this know what they're doing, but I always like to ask the questions.
It's always a transformer issue, right? Mr. Mayor.
So there are, I believe, 89 units in the Archer School redevelopment, but all surrounding the 4 blocks, there are residences, and on the backside, or maybe on 2 sides, properties of the Charleston Housing Authority. So it impacts, those 4 blocks all the way around Archer. And I was going to point out, which now has been done, that this was one of the first instances of us using the new protocol for getting undergrounding projects approved, the new non-standard operating agreement. And what I like about that is that, rather than having to take a whole neighborhood at one time, which has a lot of logistical and property issues that come up and makes it difficult, it's nice to have the flexibility. Like this project was coming forward and we were doing the sidewalks all around the block. So it kind of made sense. Well, gee, if you're ever going to underground this block, now's the time to do it while we got it all torn up, right? And so the new agreement lets us kind of drill down when we have opportunities like this that come along and get some undergrounding done. Yeah.
Great. Any more questions? Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will the residents incur some costs due to this?
So under the former petition method, yes, they did. They carried about 15% of the cost. Under the new model in the ordinance, as you kind of go to this prioritized approach and who meets the requirements. No, there is no actual citizen cost associated with this.
Okay, thank you.
Which is a nice change. All right, any further questions on number 5? We do have a motion and a second, am I correct? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 6, is that selective stormwater management approval, enter in a grant agreement and to accept grant award in the amount of $252,000 from FEMA through the South Carolina Emergency Management Division to elevate
Move for
2
approval.
residential structures. There is no city match required. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Recreation. Approval of a contract between the city and the Charleston County School District, the amount of $26,000 to purchase meals to be served during the summer for children. Funding is coming from the South Carolina Department of Education and the city of Charleston as a local sponsor. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Again, recreation, approval to submit a
approval.
grant application to the USDA for the same similar summer food service program. Got a motion and a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, stormwater management, approval to notify the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers of the city's interest in acting as the local sponsor for $5 million appropriation request to rehabilitate brick arches for stormwater
Move for
drainage
approval.
with a 75-25 local cost share if the appropriation request is approved. Got a motion a second. I think Councilmember Waring will have a little bit more discussion about this during city council in your report. I did bring those pictures as promised, and I'm prepared to show them during city council if that suits you. Okay.
Thank you. I'll wait to city council.
All right. So we've got a motion and a second on this. It did come through Public Works yesterday with full approval. Any discussion? We'll have a little bit later. All in favor? Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, budget, finance, and revenue collections. I laugh, as you'll see why in a minute. Approval to increase the hotel overnight parking rate from $20 to $30. And to increase the corresponding lost ticket fee from $30 to an industry standard $60 effective July 1st of 2023. Before there is a motion and a second on this, I think it's fair to report out that we just had traffic and transportation where we had both a discussion, a debate, and an auction. And the final resolution through TNT and recommendation back to this council and this committee was to raise the increased fee to $30 with the hotels and to cap the lost ticket fee at $50. And so with that information, do we have a motion?
So
on
moved.
This. Got a motion at the 30 and 60. Is there a second? All right, we got a second. Now, discussion. Mr. Mayor.
I promise I
Be
won't.
ready for auction, ladies and gentlemen.
I promise I won't go long, but just for our council members who weren't at TNT, the reason for the auction and the consideration for the lost ticket fee was that fee applies to everyone, not just hotels visitors. So we had all agreed that we would raise the parking fee overnight in garages for hotel visitors, which we're doing from $20 to $30. But apparently they can't distinguish the lost ticket fee for a hotel visitor versus a citizen who might be from our city who just happened to lose their ticket. And I felt like $60 was a little onerous because right now it's 30. So we're going to 30 to 50 for everybody that loses a ticket, whether you're a visitor or whether you're a local. And that's why I made the amendment to bring it down to 50.
That was the second or third amendment, by the way. Councilmember Brady.
Yep, and I would just add, we did ask for the amount of lost tickets, which I think was 6,200 and change, so to speak. Was that right?
That was in
Yeah.
2022.
So, moving it from 30 to 50 will result, if it stays on that trend, in a revenue boost as well, regardless. So just wanted to point that out, that it was actually, you think about that, that's 20 lost tickets a day, give or take. So.
Any other question, discussion? Yes, Councilmember Bowden.
This is a question I get a lot, and sorry, I hadn't had a chance to catch up on that. And it's an interesting conversation, so I definitely will. But was there any conversation about like having somebody being able to present an ID and paying a lower lost ID fee or lower parking rate at all?
No, there's a short answer to that.
Okay, well, it's thank you.
We're trying to keep it brief tonight.
But that is a question that I get consistently from constituents. So I'd love that to be something that we think about going forward.
It's something we have, not tonight, but we have talked about in the past of having that kind of bifurcated approach to parking fees, particularly in the garages. Councilmember Park.
Yeah, just quickly to that, we did sort of have a discussion around that, as someone who loses things. But I asked if there was maybe some middle ground. The mayor, talked about the fee, and I agree, taking the kids to the aquarium, things like that. But there are, it sounds like there's some abuse going on as far as, people parking for a long period of time and abusing the lost ticket rate. So we asked them to bring us sort of a report that might show us what garages and where this is going, what seem to be our biggest offenders, so if it's not the aquarium or if it's not sort of a local gathering place. But so I did ask that if there's another route that we can take, but it sounds like we can do this, we can change this today, and we can always change it back or modify it. And they're going to bring us that information in July.
Any further comment? I would just say, for completeness sake, the debate surrounding not the hotel fee, which was not contentious, nor was it, I think, subject to any debate. The lost ticket fee, one of the things we do not have currently in our parking garages, which you may see if you go to the airport, which they do have, is license plate recognition and up to the minute, hour, and day reports on cars that are there or not there. So as we suspect, a number of those lost tickets are not someone who just happened to lose a ticket that day. They might have lost it 2, 3, 4 days, weeks, months earlier. So we've asked Matt and his team to bring us back a report through TNT on sort of what the lost ticket fee situation looks like, and see if we can't divine, for instance, if there are some months where the lost ticket fees are collected more than others, like January to May and September to November, if you know what I'm saying. So we did, as I said, out of TNT, agree to the 50. I think the motion is at 30 and 60. Will someone accept an amendment on the $60 to $50, which I don't need to make for the mayor, but you could do it. Sure.
Can you clarify your motion?
Yeah, I had moved for the moving the hotel overnight from 20 to 30 and the ticket fee from 30 to 50.
Okay, well, that's a motion. I read it and I got a motion, and it says 60 on there. All right, so it's 30, 50, much less of an auction this time. Currently on the books, on the floor. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Yes, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe the penalty for a lost ticket shouldn't be as much as the initial fine. So if it's $30 for a fine, you lose the ticket, you're gonna pay another $30 because you lost the ticket. I think it should be somewhat less,
Well,
especially when it comes to residents.
Well, again, and we did have that debate, and as Mr. Folek pointed out, a couple of things, and we heard this. One, the industry standard is double the rate. Secondly, because we don't have the ability to really figure out how long that car has been there with its lost ticket, our suspicion is that there are people that are getting a good deal at 30 or 60 or $50. And we're going to try to figure that out. So we carried it at 30 and 50. That's the motion. And I would just sort of give you that as just for reference purposes. Councilmember Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one last question. Sorry. Like you said, is there a way, when someone gets a ticket, if it is, is there a department that they go to, like a parking citation? There's a department. So I would hope that I know our staff is very busy and spread thin, but I would hope that there is a department. If council member or people, citizens go to the aquarium and lose their ticket, do we have a process already in place?
If somebody wants to challenge a lost ticket.
Yes.
So normally if someone has a lost ticket, they pull up to the automated machine and they do not have a ticket
Mm-hmm.
and they push that button, they say they've lost their ticket. Then they're going to, obviously, then the other side, the command center on the other side is going to tell them what the lost ticket fee is and process it through the machine for them to pay and exit.
Mhm.
If they wanted to challenge that, or have a debate about whether, obviously they would pay it, seek a refund, they would go through our parking contract manager ABM, which would then route to our parking contract in real estate, Peter Rasco and myself for review and discussion of whether or not it would be worthy of a refund.
Gotcha. So
And,
there's,
and I would note, I think we were all had our eyes opened a little wider when we heard from Mr. Froelich that there were over 6,000 lost ticket charges last year. But I suspect there weren't many complaints about that. And I think that would sort of harken back to the theory as to why there are so many lost ticket fees and why we need to match up our technology.
I personally have never gotten a request to.
There you
refund
go.
of-
And that's 6,000. And even that's at 1.5 times the rate of the parking fees. So again, daily. So any further discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The ayes
Nay.
have it. There's one nay.
I'm voting,
Councilmember Mitchell?
I would vote for the increase parking rate, but not on the increase on the
No, Councilmember Mitchell's nay and his explanation under the rules. Thank you very much. Next is Committee on Real Estate Report. Mr. Chairman Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The City of Charleston Real Estate Committee met yesterday afternoon, 3:30. The first item on the agenda was the acceptance of an easement for a sidewalk that Charleston County is building over in my district. This is a sidewalk along Folly Road over by McLeod Plantation. Everybody knows that big, beautiful open field out there. The county's going to build a sidewalk that connects over to McLeod Plantation over on the other side. Over on Country Club Road, there's going to be various other intersection improvements in that location. And as we do around here, to the chagrin of some, and rightfully so, the county builds it, we agree to maintain it. And it's a little bit of a interesting arrangement, but I think this is a net plus for James Island, and certainly wonderful to see this improvement coming to the island, and that passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda had to do with us granting a utility easement to CPW, and this has to do with a water line that already exists. I learned that the proper way to pronounce this street is Dowdy. Dowdy. Wait, I said Dowdy yesterday, and y'all said, all right, y'all are.
They were just messing with you.
We'll look at the tape. We'll review the tape, and I'll file a complaint with Matt's office after this. But in any event, we approved that unanimously. Finally, we approved the request to use the First Scots Presbyterian Church for a Piccolo Spoleto Organo series. Hope everyone can check that out. And then we approved 6 annexations, 5 of which are residential. And the other over off of Bees Ferry Road is not residential. This has to do with a CPW property over in that part of West Ashley. And all those annexations were approved unanimously. And that concludes my report, and I move that it be accepted.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the Real Estate Committee report? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. They have a motion to adjourn. By acclamation, we are hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.